When we were kids, our nights were filled with stories about magical worlds, talking animals, wizards like Harry Potter, and fantastic adventures. Growing older, our stories evolved into the lyric of songs, scenes from our favorite films, and viral videos. And then, adulthood hits, and suddenly, we think we've outgrown magical tales. But have we, really? Because we are still captivated by political narratives, impactful cinema, and compelling art. Why do stories hold this much power over us? Why are some stories that stick forever while others just fade away? Today, we dive deep into the art of storytelling to explore what makes a narrative compelling. We all know someone who, whenever they speak, make us feel that we are inside a Netflix show. Their stories grip us, they build tension, they provide vivid details, and they deliver that epiphany moment, making us to crave what is the moral of their narrative. And to be honest, I'm constantly impressed by people who have this sort of skill. I've been obsessed lately with what makes a great storyteller tick. I've read books like Communicators and Storyworthy. I consumed tons of videos and podcasts about the topic, and even crunched some data. And the good news is, the storytelling isn't just for the naturals. It's a skill that anyone can build. And in this video, I will break down the best insights that I've found to help you to become a better storyteller. For my analysis, I divided into the two key sections: audio and story structure, and the visual guidance of the speaker. So, basically, I analyzed the story structure and how speakers deliver during the presentation. And for the second part, imagine that I muted the presentation and I just observed only the gestures and expressions of the speaker. Before jumping into it, I always try to dig deeper and to understand the motive behind my curiosity. And for me, the real motivation to understand better storytelling is that it allows me to connect more deeply with people. Stories are the primary way human beings connect with one another, and they reveal what is inside our heads and our hearts, allowing us to share experience and convey ideas in ways that nothing else can. For this analysis, I focus on the insights from those books that I mentioned, plus an in-depth study of multiple resources and video featuring modern master storytellers like Brené Brown, Steve Jobs, and Barack Obama. From a story structure perspective, they may vary from story to story, but ultimately they follow the classic three-act structure: setup, confrontation, and resolution. The setup prepares the stage and presents the story's elements, such as characters, location, and time. And this is the crucial moment because it's when the audience gets hooked. Great storytellers hook the audience in the first minute or so. Take Steve Jobs' famous Stanford speech: "I never graduated from college. Today, I want you to tell 3 stories from my life." That's it? No big deal. Just 3 stories. And by saying this, he established a personal connection by showing humility, like admitting that he was a college dropout. And immediately, we are drawn in, wondering what these 3 stories could be. The second act is the confrontation. This is where the problem is presented to the audience. And confrontation phase involves facing significant setbacks. For instance, Brow's confrontation phase often involves her struggling with difficult emotions and research findings, and particularly surrounding vulnerability, shame, and imperfection. And she brings stories or anecdotes of common issues that we all face, so we feel connected and related to her stories. And another masterclass of storytelling can be seen in Stan by Eminem. The song is a masterpiece in my opinion. In this song, the confrontation unfolds verse by verse as the fan's obsession escalates. And after the initial setup of the fan writing letters, the confrontation is the increasing tension and psychological drama. Each subsequent letter details a new, more alarming challenge: being ignored, feeling desperate, and becoming irrational, and finally, planning a violent plan. It's a musical experience that plays with our emotions by just listening to it. I always get like goosebumps listening to this song. And finally, we have resolution. The ending should be powerful. Conclusions often summarize the core message or the moral of the presentation, deliver a clear call to action or an envisioned future, and creates a sense of completion by circling back to the beginning. And this is where the transformation and change usually occurs. According to Matthew Duhigg, great stories often revolve to a 5-second moment of realization or perspective shift. This is the 5 seconds that the audience has been waiting for. And he adds, the ending should make clear to the audience what changed and why it matters. One example is Obama's resolution arrived when the older lady energized the audience, and Obama joins the chant, leading to the realization that one voice can ignite a movement. And this is powerful because it ties everything together. Now that we understand the basic structure, let's explore how to deliver the message and the key elements involved. The main objective here is to keep the audience attention and make them feel the message. And the story needs to build a connection between the audience and the speaker. According to super communicators, listeners' brains can even synchronize with the storyteller's brain's activity when they feel connected. But the real question here is, how do they achieve that? When you share personal stories, you let yourself to be vulnerable and tap into shared values. People feel what you feel. That's how trust and empathy are built. Brené Brown exemplifies this, openly and discussing her own experience with shame and fear, which makes her instantly relatable. And we just don't hear her research findings, we feel them through her personal journey. You should enrich your stories to transport listeners to their location and time by using picture words. And this means that they could be metaphors or sensory details that make the story more immersive and emotionally resonant. We want the listener to visualize what you are talking about. For instance, Obama's technique, the story of one, story of many, highlights the individual experience that symbolizes the collective struggles. Or even Jesus. Jesus often used simple parables and concrete images like the mustard seed, when he says the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, to engage with uneducated listeners and illustrate complex ideas. The Bible is full of parables. If we focus on non-verbal and vocal techniques, master storytellers often use pacing and pauses to control the flow of the story, to build tension, and to allow the audience time to process the key points, keeping them on the edge of their seats. Modulating pitch, volume, and tone prevents monotony and helps convey the emotional nuances of the story. Another pattern that I've noticed among my favorite YouTubers is that the way that they gesticulate. And to nobody's surprise, the analysis confirmed it. Speakers with more hand gestures are rated significantly higher in charisma, according to a TED study. And apparently, this comes from an evolutionary perspective, in which showing your hands helps build trust and openness, because the audience can see that you're not carrying any weapons or hiding anything. And eye contact is also critical, often overlooked part of the body language. It helps people to feel spoken to, not at, fostering connection. And by showing emotions through your body language, such as sadness and joy, especially if they are genuine, you create empathy and connection with the audience. Some storytellers that research had even taken theater classes to learn how to express emotions better. All this research has been helpful and useful, but I wanted to go a step further and validate all these findings. And therefore, I grabbed 2 videos of each speaker, Brené Brown, Steve Jobs, and Barack Obama. And I used them as a dataset on Azure AI Foundry, and a service called Content Understanding Service. While the dataset was quite limited, it provided great insights. The goal was that I wanted to quantify and extract the data from their speeches by using AI to analyze the videos by emotional intensity, dominant emotion, gesture style, voice pace, and voice pitch variation. And the results were incredible. And if you're interested in the technical breakdown of the service and results, you can find them on my Substack article by checking out the link on the description below. But in summary, in the gesture category, Obama was the most expressive, while Brown was more controlled and kept the gesture at the shoulder level. Jobs had higher and lower peaks, which aligns with his speech strategy of alternating monotone with variations during the speech. And from the data, we could infer that Obama employs more emotional peaks, relying on expressive gestures and dynamic pitching to capture a large audience. On the other hand, Brown maintains a calm, steady, and intimate cadence, making complex emotional science digestible. And finally, Jobs leveraged the contrast between minimalism and interrupted with empathic spikes to reinforce his focus mantra. While some are more natural or innate storytellers, we can all develop this skill. And the most important thing is to keep practicing. Use every opportunity that you have to add these strategies and elements to your communication skills. Apply them in presentations at work or university, when talking to your friends and family, or even when you are talking to a stranger when you meet while you're walking your dog. I just want you to go out and speak. Based on all these rich resources, these are 8 practical actions that you can take daily to improve your storytelling skills. Find the story in the everyday. Practice a daily recognizing story-worthy moments in your life. Try the homework for life technique. When you set aside 5 minutes each day to write about a moment that stood out. This trains your instincts to identify narrative potential. And remember, every great story is essentially about a 5-second moment of transformation or realization or revelation. This pairs well with your daily journal. Think of the best moments of your day. And if you had to summarize in 2 or 3 sentences, what would they be? It could be a small talk with your partner that changed your perception about something maybe. Structure your narrative clearly. Don't just list the points or give the gold straight away. Structure your message as a narrative using the simple 3-act formula. Hook your audience immediately. Remember, the first few seconds are crucial for grabbing the audience's attention. You can start with a bang or surprise, or establishing a personal connection through humility or a joke, maybe humor. Set the scene or the stake using the contrast. Use vivid metaphor or image, but important, smile. Smile in the opening. It can make you appear more likable and intelligent. And start and finish big. Focus on the details. Instead of general statements, use specific scenes and sensory details to make listeners feel present. Remember, we want them to feel the story, and that's what evokes emotion. Explain which country you were in, how did it smell, what were the people like. Describe the location. Was it a house, a barn, a hotel, a hostel, a camping site? And how were you feeling back then? Give the details. Master your delivery. How you tell the story is as important as the story itself. Vary your vocal pacing and use strategic pauses to build anticipation and allow points to sink in. Use gestures and body language to add emphasis and energy. Speakers who gesture more tend to be more rated as more engaging. And of course, maintain eye contact. Synchronize your verbal and non-verbal cues with the emotional beats of your story. Be authentic. Don't try to perform someone else's style. Let your natural voice and expressions to come through. Practice active listening and ask insightful questions. In the book, Super Communicators, it highlights that connecting is the most important goal of a conversation, and asking questions is the key to this. Leaders are present. Use active listening, ask questions, be curious, and stimulate people to keep talking and opening up. Create connection through vulnerability. Sharing personal truth helps to build trust and empathy. Don't be afraid to show the human behind the story. And remember, great storytelling isn't about performance, it's about connection. Start practicing today, be better every day, and keep being awesome. Thanks for watching.